Alright, hi, this is Will, and I was just going to do a little introductory thing for factory I/O with the Siemens PLCSIM, and hopefully everybody's going to have a chance to use the PLCSIM. I think they're working out the licenses for that, and that would be great if they could do that. In any event, you have two options for using the factory I/O. One is the Siemens PLC, and one is the control I/O, which is comes with the factory I/O. So they're both the only ways you can pretty much do some programming without a PLC. So those are the two ways to do it. Now I've done a couple videos with the control I/O, but I wanted to take a look at the Siemens, and so they have these documentation tutorials, so you can just go in the Siemens. And in here, the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take a look at this PLCSIM, and what you want is the V13, 14, and 15. And they have setting up for factory I/O, and they also have a sample program for this sorting by height basic, and that's the program that I'm going to be running over. So you can take a look at what I do, and you can take a look at what they've done. But what we want to take a look at right now is the setting up in factory I/O. What this has is it's got, and again here's the sample project, but what you really need is you need to get these template for the portal, and that's so that when you're running with the PLCSIM it can talk back and forth with the factory I/O. You don't need these templates if you have the actual PLC, but you're not going to have the hardware, so you're going to need this template. And what it is it's just one function block that takes care of all the interfaces that they need to properly operate with the factory I/O. I mean, I really don't know how it works, but it works pretty nice. So the thing you need, and you should be using the S7-1200. Now it really doesn't make a difference, but the 1200 is what we use in class. And also you are probably going to be using the well, you need to have the version of whatever the TIA portal you have, and you should have the TIA portal V14. Actually on my computer I have the V15. So you need to download that zip file, and then you can get started. But I want to first show what we have for the factory I/O, if I can find my way backwards here. So if we go back from this welcome screen, and here's how I got to that welcome, was the home page. But in here you go into files and you can let's see, okay, in the welcome screen we can go into scenes, and we're looking for the sort by height basic, and there's also an advanced one. If you get the basic you can move on, but you can click on this, and we're just going to walk through some of the steps that we have. And it's taken a second to get itself on the screen here. And what we're going to see is we're just going to see some conveyors, and it'll have a straight section and then just ramps up into a T section. And here we go. So we have let me first explain. These green arrows drop pallets down into the scene. You drive them up the conveyor. What we do is we make the tall boxes go to the left or up in the screen, and the shorter boxes go to the right or down in the screen. And then these arrows are what they call removers, and the green arrow makes the pallet appear, the red arrow makes them disappear. And right here is some pallets for some of the things that, you can make up your own scenes depending on how it gets done for the final projects. Is we might make a scene for you but not have any sensors. So you can go in here and you can pick the sensors. Right now this is a capacitive sensor, but you don't know that unless you look at the bottom of the screen, because that'll display what you've got. So here's a diffuse sensor, here's an inductive sensor, here's kind of a array that's the emitter and receiver, and that's actually what we have here. And so when you're in here, and if we look at, you can go in the views, and these are pretty good. So you can show sensors, you can show actuators, and then dock all tags. That one's really important. But if we look at the sensors, this will show you what these sensors are. And if we zoom in here, we've got a pallet sensor, a low sensor, and a high sensor, so we can tell the difference between a low box and a high box. And we can use this pallet sensor, and we will need it. And then there's some other, this is at left entry, so it's entering the left conveyor. This at right entry is when it's entering this conveyor. So you can kind of work your way through the sensors and figure out how you're going to control it. Now if we went into the view and we dock all the tags, that'll show you all the tags, and these orange sensors are all your, well, the orange circles are all your sensors. The green circles with the vertical lines are the actuators. And now they also have the emitter here is this blue, and it says forced, and that means it's forced on. And in general, the emitter as well as excuse me, both removers are forced on, and you can just click over here and release them. And if I show this, for this, I think this is, well, this will be remover left, and you can see that this one on the left hand side will turn off when I release it. So they're turned off. And here when I release this one, it'll turn off. And for the time being, when we start writing the program, I'm going to leave the removers on. Yep. And to force them on, I just click on the actuator. So we'll drive boxes down, and then we'll automatically remove them, but then we'll incorporate the logic that'll do it for us. Now some of the, I guess if we take a tour here, this is the play button, and this will let you kind of run through and sort of run through the steps that you need to come up with how you're going to program your logic. So here it's in the play mode. When you're in the play mode, this will pause it, which is really convenient when you want to stop it and see the status of the different sensors. Here's, you can reset it and just rerun it until you have what you need. This is normally at normal speed is 1, but you can slow it down to either half speed or 1/10 of a speed. Again, that's really good for troubleshooting, and also if you're trying to find out what is exactly happening with the sensors at what time period. So how do you start using this? And what you want to do is you want to develop a roadmap for how you're going to write your logic. So, and we have this control box, and this will have a start button, a reset button, and a stop button. And here it's also got a counter for the number of boxes that are processed, and that reset button will reset the counter for what we're doing. But how you go about figuring out how you're going to program it. The emitter is where the pellets come in. So if we're in the run mode, and if we force the emitter on, it's going to drop a box right on that conveyor right at the end. So let's force it on, and you can see a pallet falls on there. Now it's not going to go anywhere, because all the emitter does is drop it on there. So we need to look at, the actuators are what you're forcing on, and then you want to look at what the actual sensors, the orange circles, are doing and that'll help you come up with what type of logic you need. So now I happen to know that this first section of conveyor is called the conveyor entry. So when I force this on, it'll start moving down here. Now the thing of it is, at least to start off, when this pallet clears this kind of emitter entry box, this little shadowed or dashed box, another one's going to come in right behind it, and for the time being we don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on. When it starts moving out there, we're going to turn this off with just clicking over here and releasing it. So you can watch what happens here. So I'm going to turn the entry conveyor on. I'm going to turn this one off. And now as it's moving up here, I'm going to pause it. Okay, and I paused it a little late, but this is alright. So here I paused it, and you can see that our sensors are going through here, and you can see that the pallet has broken that sensor. So the pallet has gone from low to high, but then we have the low sensor and also the high sensor. They're still low because the box itself hasn't passed through the sensor. So what happens here is you're going to see the pallet go first, then you're going to see the box up here, then the box goes away, so the sensor will go high, and then when it passes it'll go low, which means you're going to have to latch the box height, and then the pallet goes away. So that's kind of what's going on there. And also you can use your I'm not very good at it, but you should try to practice and get some pretty good views. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this up again, and we want to see what happens. And we want to see what's going to happen, and I think I'll stop it again when the sensors for the box, the high sensor and the low sensor, those will go high. Now you either have a high box or a low box, so no matter what, the low sensor is going to go high. So I'm going to well, actually what I'll do is I'll slow it down to half speed, and then I'll unpause it, and then when that low sensor goes high, I'm going to try to repause it as hopefully as quick as I can. And there we go. So now you can see the box has broken through the beams, and now you can see that the low sensor is on but the high sensor is off. So that means we've got a low box here. And so what we're going to need to do is when we get into position, we can't transfer it now, but when we get into position we're going to want to transfer it down towards the bottom of the screen. And actually what we have here is when it gets, well, let me just unpause it, but this is a chain transfer. So this chain can either drag it this way or drag it this way. So if we unpause it here, now you can see what's happening is it kind of stalls right here. The reason is, and let me pause it for a second, is because the entry conveyor just controls this conveyor up to the sensor array. This little section over here where it's kind of stalling is not running right now, and actually we can, if we zoom in, we can probably see it if we unpause it. You can see that this is rotating here. You can see a little tiny white dot that's rotating around, but this isn't rotating at all. So this conveyor is called the load conveyor. So if I force this one on, then it'll go into position, and now I'm going to stop it again. So now it's in position to where it can be transferred either up in the screen or down in the screen. And at this point we can also force off all our conveyors up to this point. So we can release this one, we can release this one, and now hopefully we've determined that it was a low box and we've latched that in. And so next steps, you have to you can do the same logic, but down here you have transfer left, which is left is up in the screen, or transfer right, which is where we want to go. So we want transfer right. And then they also have conveyor left and conveyor right. So you just need to do the proper transfers and get in on here. Now again, it's going to automatically, because we have the removers at both ends, once you get it going down, it's going to automatically remove the pallet. But at some point when we get the logic working, we're going to take these off and actually come up with logic that'll release the proper one. So if it's coming down this way, we only want to turn this remover on. Basically it's going to be the same type of logic, but one will be left hand side and one will be the right hand side. And then finally, when the box is completely removed, then you want to come up and turn the emitter on and put a second box on there. So it'll be the second, or a new emitter signal that's going to drop another box, and you just keep continuing that way. And what we're going to do, and what we can do with the Siemens that's really nice, is we're going to show this in ladder logic. We're going to do one little demonstration that's in functional block diagram, and then we're going to do one that's it goes by a couple names, but it's called structured text. And if you can learn a little bit about all these three languages, it'll be really helpful for you. Now, if anybody happens to watch this who doesn't have this access to the Siemens like the students do, you can get a 2-week trial of the Siemens, and it'll be the most up-to-date, which I believe will be the V15 software. So you can go to Siemens and get a 2-week trial if you want to try the PLCSIM with the factory I/O. And I think the factory I/O, just the way you can force the signals on, is one of the best teaching tools for just learning how to write programs. So in the next time out, we'll take a look, and we had gone through and said we have these come on. Well, anyway, we said that we had that template that we needed, so we're going to open up the template and we're going to start writing the ladder logic for this box sorter program. So we'll see you next time. Thanks.